Hello everybody and welcome back. It's Mr. Burke and this week the reading is from Galatians chapter 6 verse 4. But let every man prove his own work, then shall he have rejoicing in himself alone and not in another. Too often in our search for meaning in life, we look outside of ourselves, to other people, our friends, family, peers or celebrities of one kind or another. But Paul tells us in this verse that the only way to be truly happy is to prove our own work, to put our own work to the test and not to think we are somebody we really aren't. One of the best examples of someone who did this well was a writer who grew up in England in the first half of the 20th century. He was always the outsider, never really fitting in at school or at any job he undertook. He felt that he was a failure at everything he did. Even at age 46, he wrote in his private notebook that a deep sense of inadequacy had haunted him throughout his entire career, and that there had literally not been one day in which he had not felt that he was idling. But 4 years before he died, aged just 46, he wrote 2 books. These books would change the world and make him one of the greatest writers of the 20th century. The first book warned readers of the dangers of looking for a perfect society, and that the quest for a just society always ends up with simply new masters, seeking power for themselves. The second book, written just 2 years later, prophesied how modern science and technology would allow totalitarian regimes to control and manipulate their populations. Originally entitled The Last Man in Europe, the book warned that the struggle against tyranny might come down to the last free man, having to decide whether he will love Big Brother, a name for the state, or die fighting him. So, who was the writer? A man named George Orwell. The books? Animal Farm and 1984. Now, George Orwell had a troubled relationship with Christianity and the Bible, but one thing is clear. He gave his generation something of value, and you can too. But how did he do it? Firstly, Orwell persisted at his work. He had a burning desire to speak his mind, and he worked at it with a passion, despite misunderstanding, rejection, and ill health. The book Animal Farm was rejected by 3 publishers as being too controversial. And even after it was published, Orwell reportedly visited bookshops, removing Animal Farm from the children's section. Secondly, Orwell succeeded because of his courage. He wrote Animal Farm in 1944, a dangerous time during World War II, when criticizing Stalinist Russia was not seen as politically or publicly acceptable. Orwell said of the book 1984 that it was set in Britain, to emphasize that the English-speaking races were not innately better than any other, and that totalitarianism, if not fought against, could triumph anywhere. Orwell lived on because he proved his work, and never became fully satisfied with how he did it. He worked hard, often beginning at 8 or 9 in the morning and working on throughout the day and into the night, his typewriter still clicking when others had gone to bed. His housekeeper became so used to sleeping with the noise of the typewriter in the background that she would wake when it stopped. Yes, Orwell was an outsider, but he was convinced that he had a message for the world, and he delivered it. Too many of us live deluded lives. We never test ourselves. We overestimate our intelligence, our faith, our generosity, our kindness. We live in a bubble of our own making. Orwell lived what this verse teaches us. Prove your own work. Put yourself to the test, and someday the world will thank you for it. Thanks for tuning in, guys, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.